This is Russ. Yeah, I have another bike to show you guys. This one's a little different. Take a look at this one. This is the Engwe X24. I rode this bike a little bit and had you guys guess what bike it was. Didn't get to see it. All you saw was the handlebar. And I think two of you guys had actually guessed the X26. And I, of course, didn't confirm or deny anything. And I told you guys nobody guessed it right. That's right, nobody guessed it right because this is the X24, not the X26. But those who guessed the X26, yeah, you were close. But they've made some changes to the X24 to make it a better bike. Now this is going to be a little bit different review, and the reason is because I don't have full information yet from Engwe, but I need to make this video before I leave on a trip because the release date for this bike is slated for sometime in early August, and I won't have enough time to do it and meet that deadline. I've had this bike now for several weeks now already, so yeah, they sent it out to me quite early, but not allowed to talk too much about it. So yeah, let me give you a quick overview of what it looks like. I know we've got bright sunlight coming in. I'm doing this early in the morning to avoid the heat. But yes, this is definitely an aggressive looking bike. I think most people would say that it's got a unique look to it, that's for sure. Now the X26 I think is very similar, but they've made some changes to it. Now the big difference between this model and the 26 is this is 24-inch by 4-inch fat tires versus 26-inch by 4-inch fat tires. So it's a smaller wheel, but that also means the frame size is slightly smaller too. And I'll tell you, I am 5'10". I weigh about 260 at this point, sadly. So I'm a heavy rider, but that smaller 24-inch wheel is actually kind of nice. Yeah, with the frame size slightly smaller, I fit over the top tube without a problem. I don't hit anything that shouldn't be hit on the top tube. So yeah, I appreciate this 24-inch wheel size. I wish more manufacturers would seriously consider maybe changing that 26-inch and giving an option for a 24-inch and a slightly smaller frame. Not everyone wants a 20-inch wheel. The 24 fits perfectly for me. So yeah, this is an interesting bike. You can see here, it actually folds in the middle. Yeah, so technically it is a folding bike, but I would not call this really something I would go ahead and fold and throw it into the back seat of my car or something. This is a heavy bike. This is not lightweight. And the reason they put the folding in there, although you can make it smaller, if you do that, you cannot fold the handlebar. Okay, on many of folding bikes you do fold handlebars, but this one does not. This folding mechanism is to be able to put a second battery inside where it says Engwe. Yeah, so you have a regular battery, which is a 48 volt, 19.2 amp hour battery, right here on the up and down portion of your seat post. In fact, the battery is your seat post. Okay, so this is your battery here. This goes up and down. There's a locking mechanism here too, and there's also a key system here. You can lock it so nobody could take the battery off. So if you undo this latch, okay, they could actually take the battery, but not if the lock is on. Okay, this cable here, if you notice, comes from down here and comes up into the battery. At one time on the X26, you'd have to take this cable, disconnect it, and then connect it over somewhere in here so that you can get to the second battery. So when you exhaust one battery, the other battery is used, okay? And the battery that's in here is a 10 amp hour, 48 volt, 10 amp hour battery. So between 19.2 and 10 amp hours, you got 29.2 amp hours of battery to ride with. Now here's the difference that they did with this X24. They don't have you disconnect this cable anymore and reconnect here to get the second battery. They both run at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, you get the full amount of 29.2 amp hours at the same time. Okay. Now, here's an interesting thing. let me get over to the front here. When you turn on the bike, okay, when you hit this button to turn on the power of the bike, that powers up this battery, okay? That doesn't power up this battery. To power up this battery, I'm gonna come over here, the lighting's a little better. There's a power switch right here, okay? So what you need to do is you need to turn this on and turn this on, okay? Now, I asked them whether the batteries are wired up in series or parallel, and they says, well, we don't really talk about it that way. There's kind of like an equalizer built into the system now. That's how they put it. And what it does is it's looking at both potentials of the battery. So the meter, the battery meter that's on the display screen, is going to read the one with the largest voltage, okay? So as that large voltage battery, I'm going to assume it's probably going to be this one first, as this starts to drain and evens out with this battery's voltage, then these both start running together. So essentially, that meter will read whatever has the largest voltage potential. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to understand initially, but they just said think about it as an equalizer circuit. It just equalizes the voltages together until both of them match together, and then they run together. So yeah, interesting. I kind of like the fact that you don't have to disconnect the cable from this and reattach to this, and that's what you had to do on the X26. You don't need to do that on this X24 anymore, okay? So I think the first thing most people would notice is there's a lot of unique features on the bike. Okay, for the battery being one, you do have a hydraulic front fork. Okay, so it is a suspension system on here, but you got another one here too. So you got rear suspension via springs. Okay, and then you got another suspension via air shock right down here. Okay, now I've seen some of the reviews from other folks who've done the X26, and they were complaining that you couldn't adjust certain things. Well, you can adjust it now. I don't know how the 26 is, but this this section here can be turned, and when you do that, that compresses this this spring. Now I have it maxed out to the fullest open position, so that I can get a lot of bounce. All right, I can move this really well. Now the thing is, I am, like I said, 260 pounds, so I weigh a little bit, and the suspension works really well for me. I don't know what it does for someone who's lighter. Okay, one thing that I think they could improve on a little bit here, though, is you take a look at here, you can see that there's some of the chain stuff coming off because it's actually hitting this particular cable. I think they could improve on that. That is your derailleur cable. So I think something needs to be here to make this thing not touch the chain when the chain bounces. All right, that's a little bit, I think it could be improved there. So it's 8 speeds on here. It is a Shimano tourney. I think they could have gone to a better derailleur for a bike like this. It is the most basic of the Shimano derailleurs, but it does work. So can't complain too much in that sense. The motor, I can't confirm, but if it's anything like the X26, this is a 1,000-watt motor that peaks at 1,200 watts. So there's a little bit more power here. The stated, I think the stated speed of this bike is 32 miles per hour, if I'm not mistaken. Let me do this. Because I don't have all of the actual stated specifications yet on this bike, I'm going to put all the specs in the description of the video. Okay, so I'm going to refer you to please look at that to find out all the specifications of the bike. I'm going to tell you as much as I know up to this point, and that's the best I can do at this point. So now, other things. You do have a front headlight, of course. Many bikes do. That does not light up. No, not during the daytime. Okay, there's a sensor on this this light. It'll turn the light on when it gets dark. All right, automatically does it for you. And this is the reason why I put a second blinking light here. I like having a light on during the day, just so cars know I'm coming. And of course, these external type lights are blinking, which I think helps a lot too. So I put one of these on, but this will only turn on when it gets dark. Automatically turns on. And you have a rear tail light, of course. That'll turn on when that front headlight turns on. Another thing though is it is your brake light, but there's another brake light underneath the saddle. Okay, let me see if I can pull the brake. Let me turn on the bike because I think it automatically shut down at this point. So it's kind of hard to see the display screen now. I'll show you a graphic a little bit later. But let's go ahead and pull the brake. You see there is a light underneath the saddle when you hit the brake. And of course the rear tail light will light up too when you hit the brake. It doesn't flash, I'm just pulling on the brake itself. So here's a couple interesting things. It is a left-hand mounted, I'll say it right eventually. A left-hand mounted throttle. Okay, let me power down here. I don't want to accidentally turn on the bike. So it is left-hand mounted, and the reason is because there's trigger shifters, a Shimano trigger shifter here for your derailleur. I like the trigger shifters. Those are always nice to have. Like I said, it is an 8-speed version. It is hydraulic brakes. From what I can tell, they look like 180 millimeter rotors. Again, I will confirm it in the description of the video once I get all the details from them. I did add some things. I added a cell phone mount, as I usually do. I added an external front light, and I added a side view mirror, okay, which I always do. The brakes are unbranded, but they are hydraulic brakes. So we don't know who manufactures the brakes for them, but it is unbranded. But it works really well, I will say that. It stops very well. Let me see, the top speed I've been able to do, I think, let me turn the bike back on here. I don't know if you can see this or not on the camera, but you can toggle through the various information. There's trip time. Maximum speed I hit was 29.2 miles per hour. Average speed was 17 miles per hour. Total distance, trip distance, and of course your power rating. So how much power are you using when you throttle up? Now here's an interesting thing about the throttle, however. There are 5 levels of pedal assist, okay? 5 levels of pedal assist. You can hit the up and down buttons here. The headlight is here. You can push this, but this doesn't do anything unless it's dark, okay? Right here. The I button in the middle is what gives you all the information, but the up and down buttons for your pedal assist, there's 0 through 5. 0, of course, meaning that there is no assist, okay? But if you're like at pedal assist level 1, the throttle only gives you the power of what pedal assist level 1 can go, and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. So if you want maximum throttle, you must be on pedal assist level 5. Okay, now if you throttle all the time, I would suggest leaving it on pedal assist level 5, and then you could feather the throttle so that you can get as fast as you want on the throttle. Otherwise, if you're for instance on pedal assist level 3 and you throttle fully, you only get the amount of speed that pedal assist level 3 would give you. All right, so you got to be aware of that. Okay, the cable management seems to be decent, but it's it's only done by Velcro strap. Okay, so you do kind of see it, but yeah, it's a head turner, that's for sure. People see all of the suspension stuff on here, and they have to look. Now you might also notice too, there is a padded seat here, but there's no posts for your feet. So if you had someone sitting here, they would be dangling their feet. I'm not in favor of that. I don't see myself carrying anybody here. You could leave this off. You put this on yourself. It's just 4 screws and you can undo it. You put it on yourself. You could use it strictly as a rear rack if you want, or use the padded seat here. I put it on there because it kind of looks cool, but I don't see ever riding with anybody on there. I would not put a child on there. I would not put an adult on there. It just has a look to it, but I would not do it. Personal thing, I would not do it. I don't think it's safe if there's no foot pegs or anything down there. So what do I think of the bike so far? Oh, let me tell you this. The saddle's really nice. It's not as wide as I like, but it's a decent sized saddle. It's nice and cushy. As you know, I like my cushy saddles. Yeah, I don't think I would replace this. I think I would keep this one. Yeah, this is a nice saddle. I will tell you that the battery, which is used as the seat post, does tend to slide down. You really have to crank this thing down. Now, there, you know, on a typical quick release, there's a screw here. I had to put vice grips here to turn it in order for me to be able to clamp this thing down hard enough so it wouldn't keep sliding down on me based on my heavy weight. So that's something to remember and think about. So what do I think about the bike? I tell you, it's a lot of fun to ride. I really like riding this bike. It's an aggressive feel to it. It's a forward-leaning bike when you're riding it. I think what I'm going to do, let me move. I'm trying to find a good angles for these things. The handlebar stem, I think I'm going to replace this with an adjustable to bring it up a little higher so I don't have to lean forward as much. I understand why they do it. It is the type of bike that you might take off-road and you might want that aggressive forward stance, but I prefer one where I can sit up a little bit more upright. So it's not hard. It's a couple screws here on the two sides here, and then you take this little cap off. Just undo that. There's a screw right there. Unscrew that. Change out this part, and then screw it all back down. Just make sure that when you do it, that it's tightened enough so that you're not having problems with the stem not being in there properly. Okay, what I usually do is I hold the brakes and I rock the bike forward, back and forth, make sure there's no play in there. Okay. What else can I tell you? I think that's pretty much most of it. Yeah, let's take it for a ride, see what it does. We'll do the hill test too. I'm really curious to see how this does on the hill test. This thing's got a lot of power. So, yeah, I fully expect that this will do well over the hill, but we'll see. All right, let's take it out for a ride. Sit tight. All right, let's take this out for a ride. Oh, one thing I did mention, these have lockable hand grips, which I really like. They're nice and soft, but there's a locking screw right here. And that way the hand grip cannot spin on you. Some of the hand grips that the manufacturers supply do not lock. And so what happens is it will spin once it heats up a little bit. All right, so let's head over the bridge here. Yeah, I would say that the ride is very aggressive. I am leaning forward quite a bit. I've kind of gotten used to it, but I don't prefer it. I prefer to be more upright. I think raising that stem with an adjustable stem or some type of taller stem would help me out quite a bit more. It's easy to do. Okay. Now, another thing I noticed too, that the display screen, although it's very nice looking, it's a color display. If you have polarized sunglasses like I do, you can't read it. The polarized sunglasses just wipe out that entire display. I barely see it as it is. It says I'm doing about 18.5 miles per hour right now, something like that. But again, it's very difficult for me to see. So as we go over this hill test later on, I may have to take my sunglasses down a little bit so I can actually read what the speed is as we're going over. The way we do the hill test is we ride strictly on throttle only from a dead stop over the hill, and then we see how fast the bike goes over the hill at the apex of the hill. Oh, there's also a horn here. Watch this. On your left. The horn is below the throttle area. It's below the mechanism there. I'm going to, okay, we can make it through. I was going to push the button, but there's no cars coming. The horn is a little aggressive sounding. I think I will add a small little bell as well, because I think the thank you. I think the horn could scare people. I guess if you're in heavy traffic, you might like having the horn, but I think, you know, going down on paths like this, the horn just is a little too much. Pass through here. Morning. So I think they've added things in here that's kind of nice, but thinking through it a little bit more, you know, even something like the horn might be more than the average bike path rider might want to do. I don't know where I would put it. I probably have to put it on, maybe I'll put it on the right side. I mean, you have to stretch a little bit to hit that bell that way, but I think having the bell would be helpful. The trigger shifters work very well. Okay, so the first one in the front here with your thumb is going down, and there's a trigger shifter behind with your index finger where it goes up. Okay, I like the trigger shifters a lot more than the standard SIS type shifter that Shimano makes, which we see on almost every bike. But it's a little upgrade. So it's interesting that they gave you better shifters, but the derailleur still is the bottom Shimano derailleur. Doesn't really mean all that much to me anyways. I don't really shift a whole lot. I tend to throttle and only usually use the lower gears if I'm going up a hill and I need the pedal to help the throttle. All right. I'm going to pass this person with the dog here. We'll hit him with a horn here first. All right, so we're approaching the hill test now. Hopefully we won't have to abort. If there's somebody there, we may have to abort. It's out of safety, but yeah, so what we do is we come down here to the hill, right at the bottom of this bridge. We do our stop, and then we throttle only. So I'm not going to pedal. I'm going to try to see the display screen here. I'm kind of tilting. Oh, there's people here on the trail. All right, okay, I'm aborting. I can't do this with everybody here. So we'll wait for a while. We'll do it again. All right, I'm gonna turn around. Okay, let's go ahead and try the hill test. We had some people in my way before. I had to abort the hill test. Yeah, we gotta stay safe. I'm not gonna be blasting full blast on the throttle with people in the way. So let's go ahead and do that now. Let's see how we do. So I'm not gonna pedal. This is throttle only. And I'm just gonna keep my eye on that display screen and see what we get when we hit the top of the hill. All right, I can see we're already doing 19.9 miles an hour. It's gonna slow down, so we just kind of watch. This has 70 Newton meters of torque, if I'm not mistaken. And we are getting 10.6. Yeah, so we hit 10.6, very respectable. Still not the number one hill climber. That goes to another bike. I think the top we ever hit was 14 point something out of a folding bike of all things. Yeah. So yeah, a very respectable number, but again, not the king of the hill. But you have to remember too that this is a fairly heavy bike. You know, the folding bike is kind of lightweight, so it makes it a little bit easier to get over. Thank you. Feel sorry for the lady. I had to make her move over for me like 3 times now. But hey, I tried to keep her safe, right? That's the main thing. So yeah, so performance was good over the hill. The ride is very nice. I do feel the suspension in front and back. I think the rear suspension is still a little tighter than some of the other full suspension bikes. but I do have it bouncing. I'm gonna, let's get over this first. I'm gonna purposely bounce on this thing. So I'm just gonna hop. I can feel everything hopping from front and back. Yeah, so, you know, the criticisms maybe of the X26 that it wasn't adjustable and it wasn't enough suspension on there, I think they fixed that. Yeah, I was offered this bike and I told Engwe I might not be interested after I saw some of the reviews from the other model. And I addressed those questions to them. I said, you know, did you fix this? Did you fix that? And all of the answers came back, yes, we fixed all that stuff. So they did fix the suspension. Yeah, it does actually work. Thank you. I also asked them whether they fixed the rattling of the battery inside the top tube. That was one complaint somebody had on one of their reviews, that they could hear the battery in there rattling. I don't hear it rattling, and they told me that they fixed that as well. I don't know what they did to it, but they did apparently address it. So all the concerns that I saw in the videos seems to have been addressed. Yeah, congrats to Engwe for doing that. It's good to know that manufacturers will take those things to heart. I'm gonna wait for this light. I could cross the other side, but I found that if I try to do that, sometimes people who turn right over here will turn right into you. So I'm just gonna hit the crosswalk button. We'll talk a little bit while we're waiting. Yeah, so quite pleased with the hill test. There is no mount for your water bottle. So if you want to put a water bottle, you're gonna have to find some way to do it. There's no ability to put a front basket. There's no mounts for a front basket in here. The rear rack is you know, covered with the rear seat, which I will never use. You could just put something over the top of the seat. I mean, if you have something else you're carrying, you could strap it on top of the seat and just bungee cord it. Or if you don't like it at all, you could take the little padding off and it just looks like a rear rack at that point. I kind of like the fact that there is that seat there, because there's no fenders on this type of bike. So that rear seat thing there kind of keeps any splash off of me if you run over any type of water. Okay, there we go. Let the gentleman hit it for us. All right, have a good day. Okay, that was kind of a long wait for the light. I think we just ran over a pebble there. So yeah, in the dark, I keep forgetting I got to duck a little bit. Some of the trees, their branches have come down a little bit, so my helmet kind of hit one of the branches. Yeah, overall I would say the bike is doing very well. It's got plenty of power. It has a nice aggressive look and feel to it, if you like that kind of thing. I think a lot of guys would like this kind of thing. I do. While I don't enjoy the leaning forward, I do enjoy the aggressive look and feel of it. Yeah, the brakes, of course, have a motor cutoff. What are these things? Little rabbits? What are those? And they look like little rabbits, really little ones. Yeah, when you hit the brakes, the motor, of course, gets cut off, so it doesn't continue to push forward as you're trying to brake. Most bikes have that. Most e-bikes will have that. Works well here. I think it takes a little bit of time to get used to the throttle being over on my left-hand side, but I'm used to it now. I have several bikes that are like that, but I know when I first got the, whoa, look at this. This is a downed tree. All right, well, we're gonna go around it. Wow, a downed tree right in the middle of the path. Glad that didn't fall when I was there. Yeah, I have several bikes that have the left-handed throttle. It does take a little bit of time to get used to that, especially if you've been riding with the right-handed throttle, but yeah, you get used to it. It's not hard. I think the hardest thing is for me because I have multiple bikes and you know, having to remember which bike has a left-hand one, which one has a right-hand one. That's probably the hardest part of it all. And keeping that in mind while you're riding the bike. So yeah, overall, I like the bike. Yeah. Is it for everyone? Probably not. Some may prefer to have fenders. Some may prefer not to have the aggressive feel to it. But if you're one that really likes something different, you might like this bike. I do. I like the bike. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I would recommend it. Yeah, I think they've done a good job. You know, the other Engwe bike I had was the EP2 Pro, which is one of their more basic bikes, and that's always done a good job. So yeah, they've continued on with a nice bike here. I'm going to do a 360 run for you too when we get to the other side, so you can see what it looks like when you're riding the bike. Now that'll be a little bit difficult for me. I usually hold that selfie stick on the left hand, but I need that left hand to throttle. So it'll be a first for me. All right, let's cross here. All right, I'm gonna get to some open area before I do that 360 camera angle view for you. Going through the forest preserves are always interesting. It's cooler here, of course, when there's a lot of shade. It's going to be a warm day today. I think it's going to hit around 84 degrees. I know that a number of you guys have a lot higher temperatures this year than I do, so I can't complain too much. But I try to get out earlier in the morning to do my rides so I don't have to compete with the heat. The thing is with this type of aggressive forward stance on the bike where you're leaning forward, it makes it harder on your arms. Your arms tend to fall asleep if you're leaning forward on it because you're kind of cutting off your blood circulation if you do that. I think if it was a little higher up, I would enjoy it better. It would not really be to the design of this type of bike though, you know. So I understand why it is done the way it is done, but you know, it's not hard to make those changes. You know, an adjustable stem, it's probably less than $20 to add that to your bike. So I would do it. All right, we're gonna pass this gentleman up ahead. We'll move up a little bit, and then I'll pull out the 360 camera and see how we do with the riding video. We'll pass this other person too. Now I know that the speed limit on this path is 15 miles an hour. We're doing a testing of the bike, so we are going to pass that 15 mile an hour range while we're on this bike. but we'll try our best to stay safe. There's just more people up ahead. I'm trying to find an open area that I could pull the camera out and be able to ride with it and not be in anyone's way. So we're just gonna plow through here real quick. All right, let me pull it out. I know there's other people here. I think it's gonna be very difficult to get a totally clear open path. Okay. Let me see if I can give you some angled shot here. Again, all I'm doing is I'm throttling while holding the selfie stick, so you can get an idea. I'll pedal a little bit too, so you can see that. I'll have to pass these people first. Thank you. All right, we'll go back to the 45-degree angle. I'm gonna try to hold this while holding the handlebar too at the same time. I think because we're leaning forward, safety-wise for me, I think it's better. I just got bit by some bug on my leg. But this is what it basically looks like when you're riding this bike. Like I said, it's a head-turning bike for sure. People take one look at this and they really have to steer a little bit. So yeah, if you wanna grab attention, this would be the bike to do it with. Yeah, I like this bike. This is kind of cool. What are we doing? 23 miles an hour right now. Hit the brakes a little bit there. So we'll just throttle it at this point. See, if I have both hands on the handlebars, I don't mind going a little bit faster on the bike while I do this. I got a duck. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice bike. I really like it. All right. So what's my final thoughts on this? Yeah, I like it. It's a nice bike. Yeah, it's got plenty of power. It's got some features that some of the other bikes don't have. I mean, 3 points of suspension. They seem to all work. You can adjust that spring suspension in the back. You can adjust the front fork suspension as well. Most bikes can. The air shock in the middle, well, it's there, but you can't adjust that. It's okay. And like I said, when I'm hopping up and down on the bike, which I'm doing right now, I don't know if you could tell, I'm just kind of hopping on it. Yeah, you can feel that suspension. It does make a difference. Anyways, if you're looking for a bike like this, go ahead and use the affiliate link that I have in the description of the videos. Read the description of the videos. I'll put more information about the bike there. Like I said, I didn't get all the information, the technical information, until before doing this review, but I am going on a trip at the end of July, and I have to have this out in early August for this release of this bike. So yeah, I had to make the review. I pretty much know what I want to say on it anyways. I just don't have all the specifics, but we can write that into the description. If you like the video, go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I'll talk to you guys next time.